It is time to leave your worries outside and laugh with us inside the Treehouse. I'm Dan O'Malley along with Trey Trenholm. Coming up inside the Treehouse today, we might finally get to that flock camera fallout that was carried over from last week. We might also get to whether or not kids should be on social media, but I'm almost positive we'll at least get to the hungry husband. Trey, you look inquisitive already, which is a good sign, which means my teases are landing. Oh, no. Okay, fine.
No. Is there really a debate on whether kids should be on social media or not?
No, but I am surprised at some of the details of the results of a survey that was done.
I am consistently shocked at parents, because more and more schools are putting policies in place where kids have to put their phones up.
And not just that, but they're starting to limit screen time in schools and things because studies are showing that, hey, this was a bad idea. Too much is too much.
Which, and I say this, as we've talked about before, I dated a woman for a long time that had 2 kids. I've seen this firsthand. Screen time is, and again, I will say this, I totally get it with parents. It is so easy to put a screen in front of your kids and it shuts them up. And which, man, sometimes is really hard to do. Mm-hmm. And so I get it. But at the same time, I just don't see how there's any even debate going on about it, whether it's a good idea or not. And so we'll get to your study later. That's
clearly that is an important issue and it's a hot topic. But I believe something else that is at least more specific to myself, and I know will be of interest to you as well, Trey, and that is the blight on society that is known as the homeless population. And this morning, I almost reduced the homeless population in the city of Portland, Oregon by 1. I'm almost positive that the city would prefer it not come at the hands of murder, but sometimes the ends justify the means. See, what had happened was I almost killed a homeless man this morning while walking my dog.
Okay.
Are you intrigued now more so than the whether or not kids should be on social media?
I am, because, if I said that, your first question might be, what were you carrying? But I know in Oregon, and you're a citizen, but you don't technically live in the continental United States. I doubt you're packing. So yes, I am intrigued. And you're walking your dog, so you're not driving.
Correct. Mere steps outside of our building to walk my dear sweet Bella. Dear sweet Bella. And this is important to note in this story. Our dog Bella, the Chihuahua mix, is less than 10 pounds. She's like in the 9.5 range. That's an important note on this story. Little black and white, precious angel. White face because she's almost 11. A little old dog, right? So there you have it. We walk outside the building, and I see a homeless guy. His path is coming towards us, and we're going to intersect. You can just kind of tell. It's like, okay, our paths are going to cross here. And to me, it's no big deal. I've seen this guy a number of times outside my window. We've stayed here for a month. But I've also seen him digging through the trash for things with a big, long stick to pull it out of a trash can. So I know that he's in a situation that is not good. Anyway, I can tell our paths are going to cross. He's obviously a homeless guy. And so I grab Bella on the leash and just kind of tighten her up a little bit just to kind of let him pass and walk on by. No big deal. Apparently to him, it was a big deal. Now, Bella, 9.5-pound Chihuahua mix. Homeless man looks a lot like the lead singer of Counting Crows, although a more homeless-looking version of the lead singer of Counting Crows.
Is that Adam Duritz?
Yeah, Adam something. Yeah. Looks a lot like him. Not him, but looked a lot like him. And instead of just continuing on his path and walking on by, he decides to take huge offense to the existence of my Chihuahua mix. So he stops, he looks down, he's got a backpack, and he like unslings it from his shoulder, and he's dropped it down now, or he's holding it by the top, and he's got both hands on it, dropped down in front of his waist. And then he goes into bow up mode. And at first I thought, okay, he's having a schizophrenic fit here, and he just starts talking. But then I realized he's looking directly at me and the dog, and he starts doing the bow up motions and things, and he's doing the big steps and stuff, kind of like how idiots go up to Jack Reacher in the TV show, and they're about to get their ass whooped. It was a lot like that. And I'm like, in my head, very briefly, is this guy serious? So I was just like, okay. I just lean down, pick up Bella, and then just walk across the street. No big deal. I'm done. I'm not messing with this guy. But then as I'm playing it in my head, as I'm crossing the street, I realize the mumble words he was saying were, get your effing dog away from me. Get that effing dog away from me. And then like he's doing the bow up motions like he's ready to throw down. That's when I stop halfway across the street and look back to see where he is, because a little part of me deep down is hoping he's following. Because again, I'm about to do a serious number on the homeless population in Portland, but he's already got his backpack slung back over his shoulder, and he's almost halfway down the block. And then some odd, peaceful feeling came over me, like, well, that was real close to getting real ugly.
Was he Muslim?
No idea.
Okay.
He wasn't wearing a shirt or anything. But when I clearly have stopped my walking with my dog, and I'm clearly allowing you plenty of path to walk by, it is not a big deal. The existence of my dog is not an attack on your canine sensitivities, especially in a neighborhood where they are everywhere. There are dogs everywhere, and it's the first thing in the morning. People are out walking their dogs. This is not going to be the only dog interaction he's going to have this morning. He needs to calm down. Anyway, that peaceful feeling that kind of came over was just like, wow, that was interesting, because that could have gotten real ugly for him real fast. And I kind of realized that in the moment I treated it as such like a silly interaction. I was like, this guy's really upset about my 9-pound Chihuahua. I'm just gonna pick her up and go across the street and let her go pee pee. But then as I realized what he said was like, and then his physical mannerisms, like, was he serious? Like, was he? I think he was serious. He was ready to either fight me or the dog, which, as you know, Trey, would not have ended well for him. The only advantage he would have had is that I have my dog with me and she's on a leash.
There's the biggest problem in that scenario is you really have to go, hey, can you hold on 1 second? Let me go put my dog up, and then I can whip your ass.
Exactly. Hold that thought. Let me just wrap her leash here around this tree, and then you and I can have a nice discussion about your behavior. Oh man. Oh. Such an odd way to start the day. And it's amazing, too, when you think about it, because, I mean, we've been here, like I said, for like a month and really have not had any bad, interactions with anybody, including, the homeless population, until this morning. So it seems like Portland is trying to, so we're leaving this week. It seems like they're trying to give us a nice send off up the highway. But yeah, it was, I couldn't wait to get here and talk to you about it, because I knew that there would be instant resonation on your behalf.
Oh, yeah, and it's funny because there are homeless people everywhere, and there's a couple that roam this neighborhood, and I am especially, I do the same. If I see one walking up the sidewalk, at the very least, I will, as Lily is just getting used to being on a leash and then introducing her to people and other dogs. But if I don't pick her up, then I will get her very close to me just to make sure nothing untoward happens.
Yeah, because honestly, you don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, even if they're people that you recognize, of the homeless type, you don't know who they are. You don't know their mental state. And honestly, even if you've seen them 100 times, it only takes one if they're having some type of an episode for something to go real bad and real ugly real fast. So it's better to be safe than sorry.
For my years at the Ivy, there was a fairly big homeless population that roamed around that area. And, sadly, you had to tell customers, please don't give your food to the homeless. It is. And, people are like, oh my God, that's so mean. I go, it's not. You don't understand. Like if you keep doing it, then 10 of them show up and then they start harming, and then they will get threatening if you don't give them food. And you would try to befriend, if not befriend them, but even like give them odd jobs to make a little money. And I remember there was one guy, he would be great for 3-4 weeks. And then all of a sudden something snapped. And, there was one time, hell, we had to have him arrested because, he was obviously having some kind of episode. So yeah, you don't know what's going on between their ears.
Yeah. And look, my heart goes out to a number of them. Not all of them, because some of them are there because of choices they've made. Some are there because they have no choice in the matter. But I don't know what their situation is. And I am not an expert. I'm not a social worker. I'm not someone, that needs to be helping in a certain way, because the only way I can help will be in a moment. And in that moment, it might help something in the moment, but that's not going to solve the entire problem, right? So, like you said, it's better, especially like when you were saying, when you're running that bar, you have a business to run, and it is unfortunately like giving milk to a feral cat. You're going to get that cat's going to keep coming back, and that cat might tell other cat friends, and it may actually be worse with homeless because the word really spreads among them. And then, like you said, they show up in droves. Next thing you know, you're not running a bar, but a homeless facility.
People get very offended by it, but it is very similar to the stray cat analogy, because if you feed one, you're going to have 10 within a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they talk.
Yeah. They talk a lot. You know why? Lots of free time. Now, I will say this. I am not a huge, proponent of flock cameras, but after this mini incident, I was looking around like, really, the one intersection in the United States right now that does not have a flock camera, and it's the one where I almost killed a homeless guy, because I would have liked to have seen that footage. And we talked about this a little over, or last week or whatever it was, about the flock cameras and how a lot of people are up in arms because they see them as, violations of constitutional rights and things. And then, Trey, I think I loved how you would put it, which is, especially in North Texas, if you ever get on a tollway and you're mad about flock cameras, shut up. Because at a certain point, there is no expectation of privacy certain places when you leave home, especially if you're in an area that that there's cameras around.
And yeah, if you're in North Texas, you should not have no expectation of privacy if you're using the toll roads. There are cameras everywhere. In fact, in North Texas, there are text dot cameras everywhere. Like I said, I think we talked about this before. I assumed that text dot cameras, toll road cameras, everything, because the toll road cameras are taking pictures of your license plates every time you go through a toll booth. Because that's how they bill you if you don't have a pass.
Yeah.
And I assume text dot cameras already had the plate registration technology or whatever you call it, that they would know, who's where and when.
Yeah. I think the difference might be with those versus the flock cameras is, I believe that in order for law enforcement to access those types of cameras, the text dots and the things that are already out there, they need some probable cause and or a search warrant. With the flock cameras, I don't think that necessarily exists. And that's where some people have the issue from a constitutional standpoint, because it's sort of like they're just scanning everything as opposed to having, cause for it, right?
Right, but To my knowledge, and listen, like with everything, you're going to have to tweak it, revise it, everything else. But I know one of the things people were up in arms about, that it was a private entity and they were holding on to the information. The toll roads are private entities. They are not publicly, they are no longer public. They're no longer government run. And so maybe you do need a warrant. To my knowledge, they haven't been just scanning everyone's license plate and going after them if they had a warrant, because you would see a lot more people locked up. Hell, they don't have the jail space for it.
No, they don't. But some of the incidents that have happened from some of these flock camera scans do raise some serious concerns, because like with anything, there's going to be, the bad apples, right? But some of these are pretty bad. The cameras are known as ALPRs, automatic license plate readers. And they do more than just snag photos of license plates the way that, like the toll road cameras do. AI records vehicle details like color, make, model, bumper stickers, scratches, all that stuff. Then the system creates a searchable database that logs people's daily movements over a 30-day storage window without requiring a warrant.
Now they have already reduced that 30-day to 7-day.
Yeah. Then you get some incidents. And again, this is some bad apple situation. So this is not everywhere, but these are things that, especially if people are looking for problems, they're going to find them. Police officers in several states have used the databases to track individuals outside of official investigations, like, stalking ex-girlfriends and things.
Or catching their other significant others cheating.
That's a no-no. I understand that's a hard temptation, buddy. I get it. But you can't. That's why I'm not a cop. Because everyone getting spied on. And not because I don't trust my wife. I actually trust my wife. I would use these cameras for really dumb stuff. Like, let me just see what Trey's up to right now. I would use it. You know what I would use a flock camera for? To access the flock camera and transport myself back to the 90s. And remember how you go over to a friend's house with that universal remote and change their channel on the cable box? That's what I would do to you using a flock camera. How stupid is that?
No, that clearly that is a generational divide between you and I, although we're technically the same generation. That's where the 5-year age gap really comes into play.
It really does. That 5-year difference is a huge difference. Like in those 5 years, you were out with girls. In that 5-year window that I was doing that, I was more interested in messing with my friend's cable box versus, going out with people. Then you get misreads on some of these license plate things. And these are serious issues, right? You get some of these misreads or false positives by the system that have led drivers, and in some cases, whole families, being pulled over mistakenly by police, fearing that they are persons of interest or just straight up suspects or fleeing felon type situations. And they're being hauled in at gunpoint and detained for hours on end. And in there's certain cases when they're looking for someone, they get a hit on a license plate, and they're now focusing their entire investigation on one vehicle. Okay. And it may be the wrong vehicle.
Okay. Now, have there been actual documented cases of this? Because kind of like with ICE, a lot of people go, oh, they've done this, they've done that, and they haven't. Now, I'm not saying they didn't. We know they did, but it's not, at one point there was this rampant thing of, oh my God, they're doing this. No, they haven't.
There's a big difference, and I know what you're saying. There's a big difference between online chatter versus
Reddit versus actual news.
Yeah. The comment section is not verifiable as a news source. It's really fun and entertaining, like a subreddit might be, but it doesn't necessarily constitute a verified occurrence or a verified incident. And there have been some where people have been misread and then detained. They were eventually let go, but those are serious issues that they have to reconcile, because especially in a missing person type situation, like we get Amber Alerts quite a bit in Texas. And so when you get that Amber Alert, say for a white Altima, and then that APLR, the flock camera, sees a white Altima, and then somehow it thinks it's the same vehicle that is the vehicle of interest. Now you've got, all these law enforcement resources focused on that car and that individual. They pull it over. What if it's a mystery? Because there's lots of white Altimas out there, and the one that you need to be following is somewhere else. So the danger of it is you get tunnel vision and you focus on this thing because the flock camera says this is it, when it may not be. It might be a different one. So it's almost like you need to train law enforcement to be like, okay, look, these cameras are not perfect. Please keep that in mind. You have to take your job seriously and pursue this, but don't put all your resources on one license plate read from a flock camera, right? There also have been some confirmed incidents where there's at least one that I saw where a guy was tagged in a flock camera, and so this flock camera had tagged this guy in one state, and he was buying weed at a dispensary, and then he went back to his home state that did not allow this, and officers tracked him to his home and arrested him basically, for on federal. I don't know if they hit him with federal drug charges, but they were able to arrest him because he was buying weed one state and bringing it into another that didn't allow it, at least not in that same way. So not that that's not illegal, but at the same time, I go back to, especially when it comes to weed, it's like, is that really the best use of these cameras?
And you know what? I would be perfectly fine with saying that's a complete overreach for how you use these cameras. I'm fine with the cameras if they're for, catching felons, murders, active warrants, not, or like you said, Amber Alerts or something like that. Not that, Joe Blow, who didn't pay a speeding ticket 5 years ago. I think that's probably a little much.
Or a guy that's taken a THC gummy to wind down after a long day.
Yeah. I mean, hell, especially in Texas with the ridiculous penalties associated with, Delta 8, Delta 9 gummies and all that stuff. So yeah, it's like everything. I'll tell you what I relate the flock camera whole kerfuffle to. It's kind of like what we're going through with data centers right now. Everyone is up in arms about, I don't want a data center in my county, everything else. The technology's gotten better. They're not, because they're like, they use so much water. No, they've now built them where they're on a closed loop system that they don't consume a lot of water, noise. And what people don't realize is, okay, if you're fine against it, then don't use AI. Because you can't have it both ways, especially because so many of these people, this is where I will get on conservatives, Republicans who are all up in arms. They're more part of the bigger group that's up in arms. You also don't like that, anything having China to be in the lead on anything. Well, if they don't build them here, China will be more than happy to build them.
They got lots of room there.
They got plenty of room. It's not like we don't have plenty of room either. And, I understand that some of these early data centers are very loud, use a lot of water, all sorts of things. But with everything, every technology, it gets better. We're going to find ourselves in the same problem, now that when everyone was up in arms about nuclear power. If we had built nuclear power the way we should have 30 years ago, a lot of the climate problems people bitch about would probably be better.
Yeah. It's kind of like in the new Spider-Man movie when he's trying to get the help of the new Black Widow, and she's like, "You are small potato. We deal with, big potato." The flock camera situation to me is like that, which is, I don't want flock cameras being used for baby potato stuff.
Mhm.
I want them being used for big potato stuff, like you said. And there have been instances where they have been used to catch a child abductor, to pick up someone on a warrant that was a dangerous felon warrant type situation. And you're right. So there's going to be some fine tuning that needs to happen here. And you need to make sure that law enforcement is not misusing them, like looking up where their ex-girlfriend or current wife is. And so, yeah, there's going to need to be some fine tuning in there.
Listen, Listen, police officers, if we can't do it as the normal public, you can't do it either.
That
Okay?
goddamn right, yeah. This segment of the Treehouse is brought to you by Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration. To get your free roof inspection and property review, call 833-COOK-DFW. And when you do that right now, up until September 29th, you will be entered into a drawing to win Daniel Cook's Cowboys tickets. Daniel Cook has a pair of Cowboy tickets to the Thursday night game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Arlington, Thursday, October 8th. And if you call to get that free roof inspection, or if you want a free estimate on any interior remodeling or exterior projects, call that right now, and you'll be entered into the drawing, 833-COOK-DFW, and you could win those Cowboys tickets, unaffiliated with the Cowboys, but totally affiliated with the Treehouse Show. And courtesy of Cook DFW Roofing and Restoration. So 833-COOK-DFW or the website, cookdfw.com. One last little bit here on the flock cameras. From Holly, our dear sweet listener, Holly. She says, happy Friday, Dan and Trey. Obviously, I'm a little late on sharing the email, but I did get it on Friday. She says, your favorite listener therapist here. I'm curious how you and Trey's concerned about flock cameras and our right to privacy compared to something happening in healthcare. Many hospital systems and larger therapy platforms now use HIPAA-compliant recording/transcription or AI note-taking software that listens to therapy sessions and generates notes. Since therapists are typically paid per client rather than salaried, anything that safely cuts down documentation time is very appreciated. But when I started with my last company, I asked how long those recordings were kept, and no one could give me an answer, only that the software was HIPAA compliant and used with Medicare clients. If we're concerned about flock cameras collecting and storing information about where people go in public, does HIPAA compliance change how you feel about technology processing incredibly private therapy conversations, or is the collective and storage itself the privacy issue? Oh, I'm sorry. Or is the collection and storage itself the privacy issue? Thanks, Holly. Favorite listener therapist. Thank you, Holly. It does bring up an interesting angle when it comes to, technology listening to us. Like I've said for a long time now, our phones listen to us, and we all just kind of accept it and go about it. And the most egregious thing that I see it being used for is giving me an ad for T-shirts on Instagram. Or if it hears me talking about a thing, then I get served an ad, on a website, kind of a thing. It seems to be more used for advertising purposes, and so that
absolutely
doesn't scare me like it does on some existential level. I will say I don't love the idea of basically AI bots scraping, therapy notes and things. But I'm also not super dystopian in my outlook on life.
At a certain point, what's the difference between, obviously it's a more verbatim deal, but this debate's been going on because for a couple of years now, at least, doctors, if not necessarily listening to everything, but then transcribing all their notes through AI instead of actually sitting there typing, just talking. Obviously, that's recorded. How much difference is there going to be between the therapist saying, Joe Blow is cheating on his wife and doing this and that versus an actual recording of it?
Mm-hmm.
Until it breaches HIPAA, I don't really have a problem with it. Now, if it all of a sudden does start, creating HIPAA violations, then yeah, I would say that's something that needs to be addressed. And I think one of the big things that they're going to have to figure out with all this technology is how long are people keeping these documentations, these recordings, everything.
Yeah. To me, with that aspect of it, it's fascinating because, look, we're talking about AI computing power, and I don't have the RAM in my own brain to truly understand the computing power we as a species have created. And so by application, what I mean is, if you keep certain things, whether it's AI note taking or flock camera data, for 30 days versus 3 days, okay, that information is already in the AI system. So even if you're only keeping it for 3 days or 30 days, to me, that information has already been sucked into the matrix. Sorry, there's no other good term I can use at the moment, but it basically has already been sucked into the matrix. And I assume it's now there forever. Even if you hit delete, it's never actually gone. Does that make sense?
It does. And
So it's like, if something was in there for 3 seconds or 3 days, if it's in there at all, to me, it's in there forever. It's just whether or
well,
not someone's going to access it after the fact.
for me, when this really, the real change of this was, we'll stick with therapy. For years, therapists made notes during any sessions, and that went into a file. Therapists kept those files potentially while their entire practice. They didn't purge the files until they retired or whatever. Once those notes started getting digitized, whether it be by voice or by type, typing in, then you come up with the question of, okay, well then how long or is that digital document in existence? Is it the same as a therapist? Is it sitting on their hard drive? The information's been out there for a long time. We're just now, because you're now talking about them taking notes, verbatim recordings of and being transcribed. And there's another question: is, are they actually keeping the recordings, or are they just keeping the transcriptions?
To me, it also goes back to, like I said, the application. It's like, how do you use that information? How is that data, that information being used? In other words, is it going to be used against me, almost like a Minority Report type situation, where it's like, oh, this person is showing tendencies for this, we got to go pick this person up because they're showing red flags for things.
I think where this will come out, because the insurance companies are the ones that will use it against you if they get their hands on it. So I think, unfortunately, that will have to be addressed if they start doing that.
Follow the money. Always follow the money. All right. Let's pick things up, not pace, but, just from a mood perspective here inside the Treehouse. Turn on the birthday marquee. Today is Wednesday, August 26th, 2026, 8/26/26. Let's celebrate today with some birthdays. James Harden, the bearded flopper of the NBA, is 37. There are not many people in this world that when I just see their face, I immediately want to hit it. His is one of them. And keep in mind, I've never met the man. He might be delightful, but based on everything I have seen about, with his antics on the court, I just makes me want to puke. Puke and punch. I want to puke and punch James Harden.
He turned into such a pariah you go back when it was Westbrook, Durant, and him on the Oklahoma City Thunder, you would have thought he was destined for great things. And, really, KD is really the only one I would say great things. Westbrook and Harden. I don't know how you judge their careers. Harden, I think you have to say, is somewhat of a disappointment, because I'm not the sports guy that knows all the stats, but his stats in playoffs when games are on the line are absolutely abysmal. I mean, they are just.
How's that go? That seems pretty definitive. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get that on ESPN.
No. Yeah.
Take that, Tim Legler. Oh, okay. Elvis Andrus, one half of one of the best left infields in Rangers history. Elvis Andrus is 38 today. 2-time Major League All-Star, longtime Texas Rangers shortstop. Elvis Andrus, 38 today. One of the guys, you talk about potential. he never quite hit what we all were told was his ceiling. Like, we were told that this guy was, the next A-Rod type of shortstop athlete potential. Phenomenal defensively, but he never put it together with the stick, as they say. But man, he sure was fun to watch, especially with him and Beltray, the left side of the infield, and their little antics. That was a really fun time to be a Rangers fan.
I mean, as far as living up to potential, he was far better than Jerickson Profar.
Whew, man, way better. Oh, my God. That's a name that has been thrown around in a while. Somewhere along the baseball force, Jerickson Profar went, ooh, I felt a tickle. Someone mentioned me. And as per usual, it wasn't good. Lead singer of Garbage, Shirley Manson, turns 60. This one's a tough pill to swallow, not just because she's turning 60, but I've seen recent photos of some of the bands that I grew up loving. Like, I saw a photo of the Toadies the other day. Oh, man. I love the Toadies. But there's one guy in the Toadies that looks more like Michael McDonald now than an alternative band mate. Mm-hmm. I saw, I'm brain farting on his name at the moment. I saw the lead singer of the Goo Goo Dolls on an interview, and he's had some work done. Like, he's had his face stretched and pulled and things. I was like, ooh.
Any other time you say that name, Johnny Resnick.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And I actually thought of that before Google pulled it up. Yeah. Have you seen the pictures of, it's Bon Jovi, Axl Rose. They both get compared to B. Arthur. It's just,
in that one photo where they have her when they're together, and there's usually the caption along the lines of, when your rock heroes are so old they look like old lesbians now. It's like, oh man, that's rough.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses is going to be here in a couple weeks, and one of my all-time favorite bands. Appetite for Destruction, probably my all-time favorite album.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if I can justify going to see him, because I've heard Axl and I know it's not good.
And he can't do that thing with his legs and his hips the way he could when he was in his 20s.
You just can't hit those notes.
Those are tough notes, man. And
yeah,
that's not a slam on him or his lifestyle. That's kind of it's just a reality. Like, there's a reason why professional singers, and this is across all genres, there's a reason why professional singers at a certain level and a certain style of singing, as you get older, that voice declines. You're not able to hit certain things like you could when you were younger. And that's just like, father time comes for us all.
There are a few exceptions. Aretha Franklin was kind of one of them. But
Pavarotti is a huge exception.
Pavarotti is a huge.
At his age, he should not have been singing Nessun Dorma the way he was.
No, but then you go, and when his voice finally did crap out, and it was Aretha Franklin who took his place, I forgot what the ceremony was, and you're like, oh, yeah, she's still got it. Steven Tyler, the fact he held on to his voice for as long as he did was amazing, because people do not realize or give him enough credit for the vocal range that he possessed.
Yeah. And that's a great example of, that is a tough voice to hang on to.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan O'Brien is 35. This is hitting home to me right now, because this actor, Dylan O'Brien, was in the Teen Wolf reboot. He was in The Maze Runner and Love and Monsters. I love that movie, Love and Monsters. I saw it on a plane a handful of years ago. I love that movie. It's great. But
what's the guy's name?
Dylan O'Brien, Dylan O'Brien, 35.
Okay, Dylan O'Brien.
The thing that I'm watching right now that he's in, Tara and I just started watching Send Help last night. This is the movie with Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien where their plane goes down. He is her boss. And now that they're on this deserted island, she saves him after a plane crash. And now the power dynamic has shifted, because she's keeping him alive. She's a survival expert, and he's a he's a prissy CEO kid, right?
I mean, he looks vaguely familiar. So he was in Saturday Night. He was in Bumblebee. That's most of his body of work. I have no idea. I have
Well,
no clue.
the current movie, this is why I bring it up, is because I get to, it's an excuse for me to
I've
we
seen a
watched
preview for the
about,
movie you're talking about, though.
it is not the movie that you think it is. I mean, that movie, woo! We're like a third of the way through. We're not even halfway through, and we turned it off last night so we go to bed, and we're like, this is not the movie that you think it is based on some of the previews. First of all, it's directed by Sam Raimi, which, if you know the full filmography of Sam Raimi, you know it predates the first Spider-Man trilogy that he directed with Tobey Maguire, and goes all the way back to the Evil Dead movies that he and Bruce Campbell started with.
I saw
And
the.
this Send Help movie channels some of that blood and gore.
So it's funny you said that because I remember watching I saw two different previews of this movie. The first one, I didn't think much about it. And the second one, I was like, oh, this looks like it's pretty dark and horror-ish.
Mm-hmm. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where the Scarlet Witch goes off and just starts killing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That was also directed by Sam Raimi. That's why it has like little horror notes to it. And you're like, okay. But anyway, this Send Help movie, I'm loving it because this is a hell of a surprise.
Have you seen some of the previews for, I want to say, is it Vision Quest? The Marvel series?
Yes.
And the fact, I mean, it's cool that they got James Spader back in there too.
It's very much an extension of the WandaVision thing. And
Mhm.
then because out of WandaVision, you got White Vision, which I'm pretty sure they're hard renaming that. Because that's what he looked like. Because at the end of it, he come like the red and the gray Vision that we know, like kind of, I mean, he technically is dead. But then somehow you get this almost I'm brain farting on the word, but the all white version of Vision, which I guess is comic book accurate. Albino Vision.
Albino.
Except he's got blue eyes instead of pink eyes.
I'll just be curious. I think we talked about this, that they didn't really, the movie wasn't enough for Ultron, for that character. So I'll be curious what they do. I love James Spader, so I'm in on that.
I am too. I'm in on it, and based on the trailer that I saw for Vision Quest, it looks like a lot of fun. And yeah, I'll be lined up for that one. Well, lined up for it on my couch. John Mulaney, stand-up comedian, is 44. Melissa McCarthy from Bridesmaids, Mike and Molly, Gilmore Girls, she is 56. To me, she's kind of a lightning rod. That's kind of a love-hate relationship with some people.
She is another one of those people. I kind of put in that Will Ferrell, Steve Carell category of, I like her in an ensemble cast. I do not like her. Typically, she's too much when she's the lead.
Yeah. What's the blonde actress? It's sort of similar. Rebel
Wilson.
Is it Rebel Wilson? Kind of the same, cut from the same cloth. There's a few other actors and actresses that are very similar to that. That's like,
oh, if you ever
can take in smaller doses, but if it's just them, it might be too much.
Listen, Rebel Wilson. I'm pretty sure it's Rebel Wilson. And you said you've never seen it. Pitch Perfect is a perfect example. She's in the first one. She's funny. You're not expecting it, but then like in the second and third one, it's like, okay, you've played that character out too much.
Yeah. Chris Pine, Captain Kirk in the modern Star Trek films, is 46.
So disappointed they're not doing more. That crew is not going to do any more Star Trek movies. I really liked those, and I am a tough critic on any Star Trek reboot, but I thought they did a phenomenal job with the casting of that, and I'm so disappointed that we're not going to get another one.
I'm not the big Star Trek fan you are. I like Star Trek, but those Star Trek movies that J.J. Abrams did were great.
Mhm.
And it gave us all hope when he was tapped to then do the Star Wars stuff, and then those didn't quite pan out as well as the Star Treks. But Chris Pine, 46. And for those that don't know, his daddy was the officer in charge of CHIPS, the TV show, the California Highway Patrol. That's his daddy.
Did not know that.
Yep. Macaulay Culkin, also 46. Two very, very, very different Hollywood actors, the same exact birthday. They look totally different. They're very different actors. But Macaulay Culkin, this is again where our age gap shows itself, Trey. Macaulay Culkin and I are like right there together as far as, the things that I've seen. I don't think there's something he's done that I have not seen because I grew up with him. Home Alone, there for it. Uncle Buck, there for it. The Good Son, where he's opposite Elijah Wood when it's a play, it's a
I
sort of a
forgot about The Good
reimagining.
Son.
That is a good movie. Macaulay Culkin as basically it was a Hollywood, remake of The Bad Seed, but instead of it being a demonic little girl, it's a demonic little boy, and it's the cute kid from all these cute movies, and it's Macaulay Culkin, and he was phenomenal in that.
What was one
And
where he
then,
died?
and then a bee killed him in My Girl.
That's it. Yeah. No, I saw all those, but I can't think of anything I've seen really that he's done as an adult.
There's a really good spoof that makes the rounds around Christmas time where it's a play on a Home Alone revisit or a Home Alone reboot where it's him as an adult, but it's him smoking cigarettes and dealing with the trauma of being tormented by the wet bandits as a child. Look that up. It's phenomenal.
But what's amazing, Kieran Culkin, I think you've said you've never watched Succession.
I have not seen Succession, though.
He's so good in it. I mean, he's so creepy, but he's so good.
Culkin boys can play creepy.
Yep.
They're not just cute kids. And as I say that now, I'm thinking it's like I need to go back and rewatch The Good Son because that's a movie that's an old, I can't believe I'm saying this. That is an old movie now because you think about what Elijah Wood has become since that movie as well and how young he was.
That movie came out when I was in college. Because that's a long story, but yeah. I definitely I need to go back and watch that movie because I remember it being really good, but I don't remember a ton of it.
One more quick note on the movie front, especially in regards to birthdays. So we mentioned that Chris Pine's 46, played Captain Kirk in the new Star Trek films. One of the guys you loved in the new Star Trek films was Carl Urban playing Bones in those movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then since then, he went on to be Billy Butcher in The Boys, which is totally different than that. The downside is, as much as I am with you, I love Carl Urban as an actor, and I've seen other movies of his that have
Because
absolutely
Bones
loved.
never said.
It's true, he didn't. But if he had, the current movie that Carl Urban is in, Mortal Kombat 2. Yes, I've seen it. No, you should not. And that's coming from me.
Now, what did you think of the first one?
The first new one?
Mm-hmm.
I actually liked it. I watched it on a plane. I thought the action was good. The story was just enough to keep me going.
I'm kind of with you on that.
It was a perfect plane movie.
Yeah. This one it looks awful.
It's worse than it looks. Back inside the Treehouse, I am Dan. He's Trey. If you would like more Treehouse in your life, go to patreon.com/treehouseonair and subscribe today. You can get bonus episodes, video, the occasional behind-the-scenes peek, all sorts of fun stuff when you subscribe to Treehouse Plus, Super Plus, or Ultimate Treehouse today. Speaking of Ultimate Treehouse subscribers now have weekly access to a live stream where we record our Thursday episode. That means you get in the chat room, get to interact with the show as we do it. That's all available. Patreon.com/treehouse on air. Okay, we're finally going to get to this. Should kids use social media?
No.
Pretty easy conversation. There is more to be had there, though. Let me qualify it. Should kids under 16 use social media?
No.
According to a new research survey, most people do say no. 62%. That is shocking point number one. I don't know how there are 28% of people that think it's okay for kids under 16 to use social media.
That'd be 38%.
I don't understand why 38%. I think I found a reason some of these people may not. Anyway, 62% of respondents said kids 15 and younger should not be allowed to have social media accounts. About a third support a nationwide ban, while others think parents should still have the final say. Interestingly, only 4% think the government should be responsible for keeping kids safe online. Most say that job belongs to parents.
You know, one of my problems with this is when I read about the Chinese version of TikTok, which is obviously where TikTok started.
Mm-hmm.
For minors, it shuts off at 10 o'clock or at some point in the night. And the content is heavily restricted. So obviously it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing. It's one thing I don't really have a problem with the government doing, is for minors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is really taking the algorithms out. It's like, have you read about the fact that they're bringing MySpace back?
Yes. Yeah, I've definitely heard about that.
And that's going to be the anti-algorithm platform.
And that's what if they do it, that's what they should do, because it truly was the first social media platform that blew up, that truly was social media. The change that's happened on social media is where it's not so much social media anymore, it's interest media. You get shown, based on the algorithm, anything you show any sort of an interest in, you're going to get hit with that over and over and over again. And next thing you know, you don't see what your cousin Josh is doing in Denver, which was supposed to be the point.
But then again, will it be able to keep people's attention without that?
That's a huge question. And look, the irony is not lost on me that communist China does more to protect their kids from social media than we do in America. While keeping in mind, I don't know if it's just for the mental well-being of the Chinese children. They may shut off TikTok at a certain point at night, so that way the kids are fully rested to go to the sweatshop and make Nikes in the morning, and to make the iPhones on which we watch our TikTok.
Yeah, or I think they know the dangers of social media, and that's one of the reasons why they constructed it. I mean, if you're going to tear down a society, tear it down from within. Mm-hmm. And China knows that all too well.
Yeah. There are certain ways to go about it that don't have to be so, communist. But like you said, it's like, even just from, forget the government point of it for a minute. Just as a human, as a person, when you see the effects that too many screens and too much screen time have on even us as adults, I fall victim to it all the time. Now apply that to a developing brain in a child, and how destructive that is, and how we've seen it in a very short amount of time, how destructive it can be. And then adding in the social media algorithms and stuff, and it's just like, oh God, you just got a bunch of drooling Mongoloid children wearing sweatshirts when it's 120 degrees.
How long do you think it will take before a child harms themselves and MySpace gets sued because someone took them out of their top 8?
I don't know, 6-7 minutes. That was part of the fun of MySpace was the occasional drama. When you got the top 8, you're like, okay, who am I sliding in here? If you're in a relationship, that first slot is now taken. Mm-hmm. There was a serious strategy to the MySpace top 8, and everyone's was a little bit different, right? Like for you and me, we were on the radio, so it had to be a blend of personal and professional. So it was actually a little bit easier for us. Mm-hmm. So that first slot is absolutely reserved for whoever you're in a romantic relationship with, right? That first slot, that's MySpace slot 1. The next 7 for you and me on the radio were really easy. The rest of my top 8 was you, Trey, Russ, JD, whoever the associate producer at the time was. One's dead and the other is in federal prison. And then maybe a couple of other station people like Gavin, our boss, all work related. That was really easy for us. I got to avoid a lot of awkward conversations socially because I was like, sorry, guys, I can't have you in my top 8. I have to have all these other guys that I work with in there because it's, it's for work and stuff. But, for the normies, that top 8 was tough, man. I can't even fathom.
I'm not sure I want to know what Tom looks like these days.
That's what's so great about him is no one knows. As far as I'm concerned, Tom from MySpace only took one photograph ever in his entire life. His parents never took any first day of school pics, and he hasn't taken any photos since then. That's the only photographic proof that Tom even exists.
And honestly, if you're under, I'm going to go 40, that joke is completely lost on you, and I can't help you.
Just Google it. Just Google it. That does it for us here inside the Treehouse. If you loved what you heard here today, then share it with a friend. Hit that share button. Send it to a friend. Send it to a family member. Send it to Tom from MySpace. Share it on social media, and together we can grow the Treehouse Show. We'll see you next time right here inside the Treehouse.